Hi, my name's Angie Alexander, and I'm just one of the many faces of OCD. I started this YouTube channel called Friends with OCD because I wanted to share testimonies of people who have been on this journey, who have OCD and who have suffered from it. People who suffer from different themes, different types of OCD. I think it's important to just chip away at the stigmas and some of the shame that's associated with OCD, and some of the lesser known themes or types of OCD. I have pure OCD. I don't know if you are familiar with that, but more specifically, I have harm OCD. If you passed me like in the grocery store, or if you bumped into me while I was playing with my children at the park, you would never know that I have OCD because I don't have any outward compulsions or rituals. Basically what happens is I have a thought that makes me feel dirty, and I engage in behavior to cleanse myself of that thought. I specifically have harm OCD, which means that I have thoughts that are of a violent nature. Since I became a mother 14 years ago, well, I became a mother 15 and a half years ago, but when my son turned a year old, I was watching the news one afternoon, and a mother came on the television, and it was a news broadcast, not a nude broadcast, a news broadcast, no naked people. And the news broadcast was basically a woman who had drowned her 4 children in the bathtub. Since that moment, I've struggled with intrusive thoughts, and that was 14 years ago. So basically it looks something like this. I'm sitting with my children, I look down at them, and I'll think something like, I'm gonna kill them. Or I'll see a knife, and I'll think, wow, I could use that to stab my little girl in the stomach. Or, wow, this rope that we're playing with, I could hang one of my children with that. And those thoughts they're just thoughts. Everybody has crazy thoughts. They're crazy because of our definition and what we've decided is crazy, right? Every thought really is just a thought until we give it meaning. It's just kind of a benign thing until we decide to define it and assign meaning to it. And so thoughts of a violent nature pop into my head, and I identify with them, and I give them meaning, and I think that they say something about me and who I am as a person and as a mother, and it scares me, and I get anxiety, and I freak out, and I feel like I'm going to go crazy, and I need to protect my children so that I shouldn't be alone with them, or I shouldn't be alone, period. So for the last 14 years, and 5 children later, I've engaged in avoidant behavior. I was afraid to be alone with my children because maybe I thought one day I'd snap, and maybe I'd hurt them. So it wasn't until this last October in 2015, I Googled symptoms. I Googled moms who have crazy thoughts. And then I became familiar with the term intrusive thoughts. And then through that term, I learned about OCD. And it turns out there's so many of us who struggle with intrusive thoughts. And in regards to OCD. So the most common thoughts that I've heard of are moms who hide their scissors and their knives and any sharp objects in their house. I know of a mother who put all of the sharp objects or dangerous objects, potentially dangerous objects, and she locked them up in a lockbox, and her husband took the key with him so she didn't have any access to them while he was away at work. And that's what she did to keep herself safe. She thought that was keeping her safe. Engaging in compulsions actually keeps you trapped. It makes us feel safe, but it's a false sense of security. And that's the danger. That's the tricky part. That's how we stay stuck. But I didn't know that for the longest time, so I avoided things too. One time I remember throwing a knife in the trash because I had a scary thought that maybe I was going to hurt my son with it, and then I threw it in the trash and I backed away from it, and he looked up at me. He was probably 5 at the time, and he looked up at me, and I was not even done chopping the vegetables, and I thought, what am I going to throw all the knives away? Am I never going to chop another vegetable my entire life? That's ridiculous. So I picked up the knife out of the trash, I washed it off, and I continued. But it was only because I was able to face that fear that I wasn't one of those mommies who had to hide the knife in the lockbox or throw them all away in the trash, you know. But I have been one of those mommies who has avoided being alone with her children and giving them baths and things of that nature. But thankfully, since November 13th of 2015, since I was diagnosed with OCD, after researching my symptoms, I have engaged in something called, it's a form of therapy called exposure and response prevention therapy. It's really the gold standard of treatment for OCD. And what it is it basically teaches you how to face your fears and so that you can overcome them. Just like the person who's scared to be in an elevator. Eventually you want that person to be in an elevator, and you have to do it slowly so that they realize there's actually nothing to be afraid of. So for me, I've had to slowly be alone with my children, and over time I realized it's not a scary thing. It's just thoughts, and thoughts are only thoughts. It sounds so simple now that I understand, but it wasn't simple before. It was really scary. Thoughts are only what we think they are. They're nothing until we assign meaning to them, even the really scary ones. The ones that we feel like are, socially unacceptable, that we don't think, other women during the play dates, we don't think they have them, or the dads who are in the business suits and really successful, they probably don't have crazy thoughts, but it's just not true. Everybody has thoughts about anything. Nobody is immune to thoughts of any nature, because our brains are magnificent creations, and so I have harm OCD, and you'd never know it unless I told you. And I probably wouldn't tell you, because if you didn't know about it, you'd probably think I was crazy. But I'm so happy that I learned about it, and that I connected with people who knew about it and who could help me and minister to me in deep ways. So now I'm in therapy, and I'm doing ERP, and I know lots of women who have also, and men who have also benefited from medication. So that's something too, when medication and the right therapy are combined. Success story after success story of people who overcome OCD. But you've got to find the right treatment. You've got to have the right support. You have to educate yourself. You have to understand what you're facing. And when I started to understand what I was facing, that's when my life started to change. So now I can be alone with my children. I can give them a bath when I'm the one home alone. I'm not in bondage anymore to my fears. And there's so many mommies who I want to reach out to, because I lived for such a long time. I lived for such a long time with fear, and that's why I created this YouTube channel, and that's why I'm sharing my testimony, because living with OCD is really hard, and you feel alone and you feel isolated. Wasn't expecting that. It's been a long journey, and it's been lonely, and it's been confusing, and it's been hard. But it doesn't have to be that way. And it's not that way anymore. And I've found so many people who are like me, who have overcome. And I'm overcoming. And I just want to say the right words to get you help if you have OCD. So I hope that this video goes where it's supposed to go, so that the right people can see it and find hope, like I did. Because 14 years is a long time to go without hope. So hopefully you find it. If you want to connect with me, I'm on Facebook, Angie Alexander, or join us on our OCD support group, Friends with OCD, on Facebook support group. Connect with me. Shoot me a message. If you have OCD and you want to share your testimony on the YouTube channel, shoot me an email, friendswithocd@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Stay strong.